Gender-related treatment should be banned for minors.
It's like we're experimenting with people live.
Right.
Live in front of society. We're doing experiments on children because we don't know what the long-term effects are.
Ruslan.
We are going to be jumping into a multi-part video of Jubilee's Detransition crowd versus the TRANS crowd. You know what I'm talking about? They're the T and the LGTV community. And kudos to Jubilee, okay? Because the detransition community seldom gets platformed. The detransition community seldom even gets respected as real. And so I'm super happy that Jubilee put this video together. I think there's some really good stuff here. And I wanted to jump in and look at it with my buddy Arthur, who's here from Apologia Center, hanging out with us today. So let's jump into the video.
The prompt. Gender-related treatment should be banned for minors. I repeat, gender-related treatment should be banned for minors.
Medical transition is no place for a child. I transition as an adult and I have medical complications. I have mental health issues. Child cannot consent to a medical transition because kids want to eat ice cream every day. It doesn't mean that they should.
I kind of agree with you on that as well because we have so many rules and regulations.
So these are all the folks who've detransitioned and they're saying, no, you should not be allowing this type of medical treatment for children.
It comes to tobacco or alcohol or any type of drugs, driving a car, you can't even rent a motel.
He got saved, by the way. He starts talking a little bit, and they kind of got him looking crazy later on in the video. But he's a Christian, which is super interesting. Go ahead.
There's some specific things that we need to put into place that I think would help protect our children because the minors themselves really don't know who they are until they become 25, 26 years old. Their minds aren't fully developed, and it kind of breaks my heart a little bit.
So I did transition as a minor. I was a teenager who had a lot of mental health issues and had been exploited and hated my body, and it ended with me kind of finding spaces where that was twisted into no, you're just a boy in the wrong body, and it ended with me having my first ever medical intervention being a double mastectomy at 16 before any hormone.
At 16,
Dude, that's when your body's like developing, like you're.
Yeah, man.
at 16 years old. Gosh darn it.
It's before anything else, and because of transitioning at such a young age, in the past 6 months, I have watched my body fall apart and waste away in front of me. I have constant joint pain. I've watched my muscle mass waste away. I've watched my vocal cords hurt. I don't know if I'll ever be able to carry a child. The evidence we have suggests that the best way to figure out if gender dysphoria persists into adulthood is to let them grow up.
And this is now becoming a polarizing, controversial take.
Telling you, bro, the thing that's going to end this nonsense is lots of people getting sued.
Oh, yeah. It's already starting to happen.
I think we're going to see a lot of that in the next 5 years because those kids that were younger and they did that too are coming into adulthood.
Yep.
Like, you guys ruined my life.
Yep.
Parents.
Yep.
Doctors.
Yep.
Like, that's the thing that's going to, it's not going to be ideological.
Yeah.
As much as I would like it to be ideological,
It's not.
It's going to be financial. It's going to be, we're closing your hospitals down.
Yep.
It's just the insanity of it, man. As a father of 3 little kids,
Yeah.
like the stuff you see kids go through and the questions they ask about themselves and just identity stuff. I mean, my kids wake up one day, they want to be dinosaurs, bro.
Yeah.
I don't want to belittle that kind of a conversation because I think when you have gender dysphoria, it's a lot serious, but they don't have categories to think about. Everything's black and white. If you like pink, right, then you're a girl. Like, that's the mode of thinking for a kid.
Right.
They don't know how to nuance it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. And then that's already happening. There's already lawsuits happening. And I think it's going to keep happening. Jesus said wisdom will be proven right by her children. Yeah. So we're going to see this a generation from now. And I think that's when it's going to really hit the fan.
Because a lot of these kids will grow out of it, and many of them will just grow up and end up being gay or gender nonconforming.
Yep.
By the way, which they say is a vast majority of folks who feel this way as children do grow up and just end up being same-sex attracted.
Disagree a step forward?
So these are all the folks that think children shouldn't get it.
I mean, if we're going to be honest, every major medical organization supports gender-affirming care for youth. They say it's safe and it's life-saving. And there are numerous studies that back that up.
The study that backs it up for puberty blockers is the Dutch protocol, and the same scientists.
I have 10 studies that I can bring to you.
The same scientists that brought that up have since rolled it back and said it was never supposed to be applied the way it has. The American medical industry.
Pause it. Luca keeping her composure. And you notice how the other goes, I got this, and she brought it down.
Tone of voice matters.
Tone of voice matters, but that is, you could tell she's hurt by this. And the fact that she was able to control the conversation, I think it just shows a lot of restraint on her. Pull it back. Just watch this. And this is how you have these sorts of conversations. Listen to her tone, listen to her body language.
And there are numerous studies that back that up.
The study that backs it up for puberty blockers is the Dutch protocol, and the same
I have
scientists.
10 studies that I can bring to you
The
right now.
same scientists that brought that up have since rolled it back and said it was never supposed to be applied the way it has.
Come
The
on,
American
Luca.
medical industry, we all know, is money hungry and has gone off the
Come
rails.
on.
Charisma on Command University right there.
Yes. Which, by the way, they're saying $100 billion industry. There's going to be $100 billion industry, much of which is going to be, funded by taxpayers. A lot of it. You know what I mean? At some point. And so
I do agree that there are definitely some doctors out there that may be taking advantage of people, and I'm sorry that you went through this. Truly, I really am sorry. But kids are valid, and it's not a decision that they're making.
Right.
It's healthcare.
I want to speak to that real quick. Like, I came out 13 years ago when I was 14, and I knew, not that I was, but that I was a boy. I had to go through a lengthy process of therapy and seeing an endocrinologist and go through different tests and exams to make sure that this was real to everyone else involved. Transitioning and being trans was just a process I went through to become who I always knew I was.
Okay, can we? Sorry, man. This is philosophy. This is like my world.
Okay.
When you say I, who are we talking about? When this individual is saying, I knew I was a boy. There's a reference there, right? There's a referent there, being the I. Who's the I, if not your body? Because clearly they're saying not my body, which implies what?
A soul.
A soul.
Yeah.
An immaterial self. But immaterial selves imply something else.
That's good.
Immaterial existence, which implies God,
Right.
which implies morality.
Yeah.
Is
Objective
God
truth.
just making these mistakes?
Yeah.
Right? Like, so whenever this individual says, oh, they did all these tests, on what? They can't do tests on your soul.
Right.
Unless you went and saw a psychiatrist. But we just looked at a story where somebody got in trouble for seeing a therapist, was just a psychologist, counselor.
Yeah.
It wasn't a decision that I made. It was a life or death thing for me. And if I hadn't gotten on hormones and gotten surgery at 16, I don't know if I would be here.
As a father, I have 4 kids, and also as a person, I think that knowing what it looked like for me as a child, and that experience of going through all of the turmoil and all of the trepidation around my gender identity, I would not put my children in that situation. And also, I don't think that surgeries should be allowed for minors. Like, when we look at the data and we look at the statistics and we look at the research,
So this is someone that's transitioned, and he's saying they shouldn't be allowed for minors.
Right.
Yeah.
W take for him as someone that's trans, right? So that just goes to show you that the folks pushing for the gender care or whatever it's called is not. It's not all folks. It's not all LGTB folks. It's a very specific segment of the activists and the radicals that are like, yay, take healthy breasts and chop them off at 16.
I think there is a
15.
sect, though, that says no surgery until 18, but is cool with hormones from a young age.
Yeah, but there's a sect that's saying chop off healthy breasts.
Yeah, both. Yeah, that's
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like at 16. So yeah, kudos to him for speaking up and saying that. Hey, you want to see something crazy? 67% of the people who watch this channel are not subscribed. Do me a quick favor, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you stay up to date on all the videos here on the Blessed God Studios channel.
The majority of these surgeries are happening to adults. They're not minors. So let's start there, right? And then further than that, if we look at puberty blockers are reversible. So when it comes to children.
Now that isn't all the way true. We don't have enough research to prove if they're reversible. And some of the stuff that's being used for puberty blockers, and this is true.
They're not reversible.
Yeah. Well, there's a debate for that.
Yeah.
They're going to say they're reversible. Folks that are
No, what I'm
against
saying
it
is some of them aren't because they use them
Yes.
for like thousand stuff.
Right.
No?
That's where I was going. Some of the stuff used for puberty blockers are the same medication used to give towards to chemically castrate.
Yeah.
To chemically castrate people that commit SA.
Yeah.
So which puberty blockers?
Yeah.
Which ones are we talking about? Because you got to be specific. So there's like broad generalization from a source from Planned Parenthood.
Come on, that's L.
Get out
Really?
of here.
That's an L.
Yo,
Planned Parenthood is your source.
Here's a quote about abortion from Planned Parenthood.
We're gonna use Planned Parenthood to say puberty blockers are 100% reversible. And I could pull up a clip right now of the lady overseeing the clinic in Europe, and I believe she's in Britain, who said that the same medicine is used to chemically castrate folks who commit SA.
Well, and on top of that, the lady that transitioned that's on this thing, she's talking about how her vocal cords are messed up, her voice
And
is
she doesn't know
deeper,
if she can have
Her
kids.
muscles.
her bones, like
She's sitting across
she's
the
sitting,
one that's
she's sitting there like, you're gonna tell me that it's reversible?
Right. Go ahead.
Talk about puberty blockers. That gives them a shot. Yeah. And it gives them autonomy over their bodies. It gives them a space that they can explore their expression. They can explore who they are without surgeries, without all of these other things that could have permanent effects. My kids were maybe 8 and 10 when I started my transition. And so I talked to them in kid terms. I told my son, I said, look, you know, your mom, dad wants to be a dad because that's how I feel. And my kids being so young, they understood it. They were like, okay, we're with it, you know? And so as they got older, I would bring them into my world and get them to understand the things that maybe I was going through, but now that they're adults, they understand differences in people, not just people, but people in general.
Pause it.
By the way, I don't buy that line that my kids were for it. Like,
Yeah.
I'll tell you this, like my youngest son, there's absolutely nothing that I can do on this planet that in his eyes would be wrong. I've tested this.
Yeah.
I'll say like dad, like I'll say crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And he just takes my side over everything. He's like that.
Yeah.
Like if he sees like if I disagree with my wife and I'm like, no, you should have done this. He'll be like in the corner and be like, yeah, mom, like that's right. Like
Yeah, it's a good point.
it's like if I went to him and said something like that.
Yeah. Is it legal for underage children to have relations with each other? When I was in school, it was not legal.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
I'm not talking about an older grown up
Yeah.
grooming a younger child,
Yeah,
a
two
teenager.
underage.
I'm talking about two folks that are 13 years old having intimacy together. From when I was in high school, that was not legal.
I don't think it's illegal.
I think it's illegal.
It can be illegal for two minors to engage in acts. In some states, having intercourse with someone who is under the age of consent is always treated as statutory. In other states, however, there is an exemption to statutory rape for when two people who are close in age have consensual.
It depends on the state. They're saying it depends on the state. I remember this is the year 2000, 2001 in California, them saying this act can get you in trouble. You doing it with another, as a child, doing this with another consensual child is potentially
because you don't
criminal.
Because essentially you don't have the maturity, I guess, and the development to make a decision like that. That's the thing.
So if just 2 generations ago, 20 years ago, the act of intimacy amongst children was illegal. Now these children are being told to explore their sexuality by taking an external chemical in their body to block their natural progression of puberty.
By the way, when people say things like, it gives them room to explore, as though medication doesn't have an effect on you.
Right.
I don't think you understand the nature of medication.
The idea of children giving consent to other children is even blurry, right? So anyway, it seems like we can't even find a clear answer for that.
So there is such thing as fluid. How do you know that this kid is not going to change their gender expression later on? We really actually don't have studies on children that are taken over long term, like over 10 years, 20 years.
So this person detransitioned and they're
we really actually don't have studies.
He, she, they, and they detransitioned. Okay.
On children that are taken over long term, like over 10 years, 20 years. You've only been on testosterone 14 years. One of the oldest trans men, Buck Angel, he almost died from testosterone.
Yo, Buck Angel, have you ever seen his? Bro, his content is wild, and he is not celebrated by this community. He's one of the oldest people from this community because he's so against this happening to minors.
Yeah, I mean, what this individual is saying is right on, because it's like we're experimenting with people live.
Right.
Live in front of society. We're doing experiments on children because we don't know what the long-term effects are.
Right.
And it seems to me that all the data that we're seeing, the long-term effects are bad.
Yeah. Yeah. The longest study is a study out of Sweden, I believe, with the longest study over a couple decades, whereas if everything else has not been as long. It's all short-term studies. And so the argument for the short-term studies is, well, short-term studies, they don't have the same ideation, self-deletion ideation. The issue with that is it's a self-reporting studies and there's no control group.
Yeah.
Meaning that you're just getting the folks who self-reported positive experiences post-transition and no control group of someone that chose not to transition and what has their experiences been like.
Which would be difficult if somebody does self-deletion.
Right.
You're saying right now it saved your life. You may still die from it. You don't know. But you're still
Exactly.
you'll die for ideology.
What did he say?
You're still
happy.
I'll die happy.
Wow. I mean, that's delusional. That's either pride or delusional. Yeah, as a comment, as a reaction, immediate reaction.
Yeah.
Right? Like you don't, when I hear a comment like that, you don't hear about, you're not interested about truth.
Yeah. It
Right.
reminds me of the person that's like, hey man, you really should consider smoking.
Yeah.
Or you really should consider drinking, or you really should consider not eating your diet because it can shave off years from your life. And I'll be like, YOLO. Like, I'd rather die happy than depriving myself of the thing I really want to consume.
Exactly.
Exactly.
You'll die for ideology, and a lot of people have died for an ideology.
It's not an
But
ideology.
we have
It
more
is.
people
Who
that
I
are
am.
dying
It's
because
an
they're
idea
not
that you were
allowed
born
to
in the wrong
express
body.
themselves.
How can they say it's not an ideology? Like that's,
Because they haven't thought deeply about it. I just proved
yeah, the
that you
philosophical aspect, yeah.
assume a dualistic nature to humanity.
Yeah.
It's absolutely, whether you're aware of it or not, the reality of what you're saying is you believe in dualism and you think that souls are gendered. It's another thing. And you could be in the wrong gender.
Yeah.
It's all assumed in there.
It's good.
Look at the rate of masculine folks. It is at 55%. And one of the factors that could save their lives is support, right? And so if we have folks that are committing suicide because they're not allowed to transition, how do we fix that? If you're telling me the transition for children or minors is something that shouldn't be done.
The first here, I am very sensitive to this subject, as I've been the person who has had to talk people off the ledge when it comes to suicidality. The discussion around how we talk about suicide is a very dangerous one in this community.
Yo, Luca is
Yeah.
not missing in this entire conversation. I am so proud of her. Listen to what she says next. What she says next is super duper important. Watch this.
You know, my parents were told, do you want a dead daughter or a living son? That's not an appropriate way to talk about that.
Come on. That is not an appropriate way to talk about that. And we hear this all the time.
It's fear-mongering.
It is fear-mongering.
Yeah, it's manipulation, right? Like if I went to the doctor as a parent and my 5-year-old is there and I'm already distressed over the situation and an authority comes and says, hey, you got 2 options. You walk away from here and in 8 months' time, your daughter's dead. Or you make these decisions and your daughter's no longer a daughter and a son, but alive. That's manipulation.
Well, it reminds me of an ex I had that was literally like, if you break up with me, I'm going to delete myself.
Yes, it's absolute manipulation.
Yeah.
And it's a false dichotomy when you talk about logic.
Right. It's good.
I understand that, but
And
it is our masculine youth
I understand
that
that.
are at the highest risk
I
of
understand
suicide.
that they deserve help. We also need to have a responsible conversation that is not using as a means to push them down a pipeline before they have that comprehensive care.
All y'all using suicide as a talking point for this?
This is a sickness of the highest order.
Yuck.
We don't do it with anything else.
Nothing else. Yeah, W for Luca for sure.
Hey, this clip is from our daily after party stream. If you enjoyed it, consider signing up for our Patreon community for only $5 a month, where you get access to the replays of our daily after party streams, as well as the uncut extended versions of our podcast, Discord access that's private, and a discount code for our merch store, only $5 a month. And ultimately, it's the best way to help us contextualize the gospel of Jesus using media, podcasting, and of course, YouTube. The link for that is in the description or in the pinned comment. The perks are amazing. You should get on there. It's only $5 a month. I'll see you over there, all right? Peace.